Every country has its own story, tales of triumph, resilience, and rich traditions. But behind the breathtaking landscapes and vibrant cultures, there are shadows of suffering, struggles that rarely make the headlines. From war-torn nations to economically struggling superpowers, pain exists in every corner of the world. Some battles are loud and visible, wars, famines, natural disasters, while others are silent, like loneliness, inequality, and hopelessness. This list is not just a compilation of statistics, it's a reflection of real human lives, people waking up each day to fight battles they never chose. It's a reminder that behind every flag and border, there are hearts that ache, dreams that are shattered, and voices longing to be heard. So let's take a journey across the world, not to admire its beauty this time, but to acknowledge its pain. In recent years, Argentina has grappled with severe economic crises characterized by hyperinflation, currency depreciation, and mounting debt. These issues have led to a significant increase in poverty levels, with reports indicating that over 52% of the population now lives below the poverty line, a rate not seen in 2 decades. Vulnerable groups, including children and the elderly, are disproportionately affected, struggling to afford basic necessities such as food and healthcare. The administration under President Javier Milei has implemented stringent austerity measures aimed at stabilizing the economy. These policies include substantial cuts to public spending, the elimination of subsidies for essential services like energy and transportation, and significant reductions in government employment. While intended to curb fiscal deficits, these measures have exacerbated social inequalities, leading to increased unemployment and further impoverishment of already vulnerable communities. Concurrently, there has been a troubling erosion of human rights. Reports highlight governmental hostility toward journalists and the LGBTQ+ community, as well as the implementation of policies that restrict peaceful protest. Notably, the prohibition of gender-affirming treatments for minors and the withdrawal from international organizations like the World Health Organization have sparked widespread criticism and concern. Australia, renowned for its diverse landscapes and high quality of life, faces significant challenges that cast a shadow over its national narrative. Among the most pressing issues are the persistent disparities affecting Indigenous Australians and the escalating mental health crisis nationwide. Despite various initiatives, the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians remains substantial. Recent reports indicate that only 5 out of 19 targets aimed at improving Indigenous livelihoods are on track. Alarmingly, rates of suicide, incarceration, and children placed in out-of-home care have increased among Indigenous populations. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has acknowledged past governmental failures and emphasized the need for renewed efforts to address these disparities. Mental health issues are a growing concern in Australia. Approximately 1 in 5 Australians aged 16-85, 22% or 4.3 million people, experienced a mental disorder in the previous 12 months. Anxiety disorders were the most common, affecting 17% of the population, followed by affective disorders, 8%, and substance use disorders, 3%. The situation is particularly dire among Indigenous communities, where suicide rates are disproportionately high. A recent government report highlighted that Indigenous Australians are experiencing increasing rates of suicide, incarceration, and children in out-of-home care. The report underscores the need for comprehensive strategies to address these critical issues. These intertwined challenges highlight the urgent need for comprehensive reforms and sustained efforts to improve the well-being of all Australians, particularly the most vulnerable populations. Brazil, celebrated for its vibrant culture and natural beauty, faces profound challenges that cast a shadow over its progress. Among the most pressing issues are systemic violence, deep-rooted social inequalities, and environmental crises, each contributing to a complex and distressing reality for many Brazilians. Brazil experiences alarmingly high levels of violence, particularly affecting marginalized communities. In 2023, police forces were responsible for over 6,000 deaths, predominantly involving young black men from low-income neighborhoods. These incidents often lack thorough investigation, leading to widespread impunity. Grieving families, especially mothers, have mobilized to seek justice and support, highlighting the pervasive nature of state violence. Despite being one of the world's largest economies, Brazil grapples with significant social disparities. The nation ranks among the highest globally in income inequality, with the richest 10% of Brazilians earning 43% of the nation's income, while the poorest 34% earn less than 1.2%. Women also face job discrimination, limiting their earning potential. Brazil's environmental challenges have reached critical levels, with record-breaking forest fires in 2024 affecting over 60% of the country's territory. These fires have led to severe air pollution, impacting the health of millions and devastating vast ecosystems, including the Amazon rainforest. The government's struggle to manage these crises, coupled with limited resources and political resistance to environmental measures, exacerbates the situation. These intertwined issues underscore the urgent need for comprehensive reforms and sustained efforts to uphold human rights, promote social equity, and protect the environment in Brazil. Canada is currently grappling with two significant crises: a severe housing affordability issue in major cities and one of the highest opioid overdose rates globally. In recent years, the dream of homeownership has become increasingly unattainable for many young Canadians. A survey by Easy Home Renovation found that a growing number of Canadians aged 18 to 44 no longer view owning a home as a realistic goal in their lifetimes. Factors contributing to this sentiment include high rents, soaring mortgage rates, and a limited housing supply. The decline in homeownership is particularly pronounced among younger demographics. For instance, homeownership rates for individuals aged 25 to 29 dropped sharply from 44% in 2011 to 36.5% in 2021. This housing crisis is not only affecting individual aspirations, but also has broader economic implications. High housing costs are leading to increased financial stress, delayed family formation, and migration away from major urban centers. Concurrently, Canada is facing a devastating opioid overdose crisis. Between January 2016 and June 2024, there were a total of 49,105 apparent opioid toxicity deaths reported across the country. In the first half of 2024 alone, 84% of accidental opioid toxicity deaths occurred in British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario. The majority of these deaths involved males, 72%, and individuals aged 30 to 39 years, 30%. Fentanyl, a potent synthetic opioid, has been a significant driver of this crisis. In the first half of 2024, 79% of accidental opioid toxicity deaths involved fentanyl. The prevalence of non-pharmaceutical opioids in the drug supply has exacerbated the situation, leading to a surge in overdose deaths. Efforts to address the crisis have included harm reduction strategies, increased access to treatment, and public awareness campaigns. China is currently grappling with two significant demographic challenges: a surplus of overqualified graduates facing employment difficulties and an aging population coupled with a declining birth rate. In recent years, China has witnessed a substantial increase in the number of university graduates. However, the job market has not expanded proportionately, leading to a situation where many highly educated individuals struggle to find employment that matches their qualifications. In 2022, graduates from universities and vocational colleges constituted 70% of the unemployed youth, a significant rise from 9% 2 decades earlier. This mismatch has forced many young professionals to accept positions below their skill levels, often in low-paying or part-time roles. The youth unemployment rate reached a record 21.3% in June 2022, prompting authorities to halt the publication of unemployment data. Concurrently, China faces the challenge of a rapidly aging population and a declining birth rate. The nation's population fell for the third consecutive year in 2024, decreasing by 1.39 million to 1.408 billion. This trend poses significant economic risks, including a shrinking labor force and increased pressure on social welfare systems. The aging demographic is a result of prolonged low fertility rates and increased life expectancy. Projections indicate that by 2050, individuals over retirement age could comprise 39% of the total population, potentially leading to a higher dependency ratio and straining economic resources. The combination of an oversupply of overqualified graduates and an aging population presents multifaceted economic challenges. The underemployment of educated youth can lead to decreased productivity and social unrest, while the increasing proportion of elderly citizens necessitates substantial public spending on healthcare and pensions. Addressing these issues requires comprehensive policy interventions aimed at balancing educational output with labor market demands and implementing strategies to manage the demographic transition effectively. France's colonial history and its current social challenges are deeply intertwined, manifesting in ongoing racial tensions and a significant homelessness crisis, particularly in Paris. France's colonial endeavors, spanning continents from Africa to Asia, have left enduring imprints on its societal fabric. The policies and attitudes from the colonial era have perpetuated systemic inequalities and racial tensions within contemporary French society. Historically, colonial policies established hierarchies that favored French settlers over indigenous populations. For instance, in Algeria, the 1865 Senatus Consulte allowed Muslims to apply for French citizenship only if they renounced their personal status under Islamic law, a requirement not imposed on other groups. Such policies entrenched divisions and fostered resentment. In modern France, these historical injustices manifest as social and economic disparities affecting descendants of former colonies. A report by the European Network Against Racism highlighted that the poverty rate among people of African origin in France is 39.5%, more than twice that of people of European origin. This disparity underscores the lingering effects of colonialism on current socioeconomic conditions. Moreover, discussions about race remain sensitive in France. The nation's commitment to universalism often leads to reluctance in acknowledging racial categories, complicating efforts to address systemic racism. Recent events have reignited debates about the need to confront and rectify these deep-seated issues. Paris, often dubbed the City of Light, faces a growing homelessness crisis that contrasts starkly with its image. Recent counts indicate a significant increase in the number of individuals sleeping rough. Preliminary results from the 2023 count reveal a 16% increase in rough sleeping relative to 2022. Factors contributing to this rise include economic challenges, housing shortages, and social service limitations. The situation has been exacerbated by events such as the COVID-19 pandemic and preparations for international events like the 2024 Olympics. Reports suggest that nearly 20,000 people were displaced from informal housing ahead of the Paris Olympics, a move criticized by advocacy groups as social cleansing. Efforts to address homelessness have included initiatives like the Nuit de la Solidarité, an annual event to count and provide services to the homeless population. However, the increasing numbers indicate that more comprehensive and sustainable solutions are needed to tackle the root causes of homelessness in the city. In conclusion, France's colonial past continues to influence its present, contributing to social tensions and racial inequalities. Simultaneously, the nation grapples with pressing issues like rising homelessness, particularly in urban centers like Paris. Addressing these challenges requires a multifaceted approach that acknowledges historical contexts while implementing forward-thinking social policies. Germany is currently navigating complex challenges related to immigration and political polarization, particularly concerning the integration of immigrants and the societal responses to immigration policies. Over the past decade, Germany has experienced significant immigration, notably during the 2015 refugee crisis when approximately 1.1 million refugees and migrants, primarily from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, sought asylum in the country. The influx of immigrants has led to various integration challenges. 1. Employment. Integrating immigrants into the labor market has been a focal point. While many immigrants have successfully found employment, others face obstacles such as language barriers, non-recognition of foreign qualifications, and limited access to professional networks. 2. Education. The education system has been tasked with accommodating children from diverse linguistic and cultural backgrounds. Schools in certain areas report that a significant percentage of students do not speak German as their first language, necessitating additional resources for language acquisition and integration programs. 3. Housing. Providing adequate housing for immigrants, especially in urban centers, has been challenging. The demand for affordable housing has increased, leading to overcrowded accommodations and, in some cases, tensions within local communities. The challenges associated with integrating a large number of immigrants have contributed to increasing political polarization in Germany. 1. Rise of the AfD. The Alternative for Germany, AfD, a right-wing populist party, has gained support by advocating for stricter immigration controls and expressing skepticism about Germany's capacity to integrate immigrants. This stance has resonated with segments of the population concerned about cultural changes and economic impacts. 2. Mainstream political dynamics. In response to the AfD's growing influence, traditional parties like the Christian Democratic Union, CDU, have adopted more stringent immigration policies. Notably, CDU leader Friedrich Merz has proposed stricter border controls and collaborated with the AfD on certain immigration motions, a move that has sparked controversy and debate within German politics. 3. Public sentiment. Public opinion on immigration is divided. While many Germans support humanitarian efforts and recognize the economic contributions of immigrants, others express concerns about security, cultural integration, and the strain on public services. This division has led to large-scale protests and counter-protests, reflecting the nation's struggle to find consensus on immigration policies. Germany's experience underscores the complexities of managing immigration in a way that balances humanitarian commitments with social cohesion. The ongoing political debates and societal discussions highlight the need for comprehensive strategies that address both the opportunities and challenges presented by immigration. Italy faces significant demographic and economic challenges, notably high youth unemployment and a rapidly aging population due to one of the world's lowest birth rates. As of December 2024, Italy's youth unemployment rate stood at 19.4%, among the highest in Europe. This issue is particularly pronounced in southern regions like Calabria, where youth unemployment rates have exceeded 50% in recent years. Factors contributing to this situation include economic stagnation, a mismatch between educational outcomes and labor market needs, and a prevalence of temporary or informal employment contracts that offer limited job security and growth opportunities. Italy has the second oldest population globally, with 24.3% of its residents aged 65 and older as of 2024. The country's birth rate has been declining for 15 consecutive years, reaching a record low of 379,000 births in 2023, the lowest since national unification in 1861. The total fertility rate has decreased from 1.24 children per woman in 2022 to 1.2 in 2023, significantly below the replacement level of 2.1 needed to maintain a stable population. This demographic trend poses challenges for economic growth, labor market sustainability, and the funding of social services, including pensions and health care. Addressing these intertwined issues requires comprehensive policy interventions aimed at stimulating economic growth, aligning education with labor market demands, and implementing family-friendly policies to encourage higher birth rates. Japan is grappling with two significant demographic challenges: an increasing elderly population coupled with a rapidly declining birth rate, and high rates of suicide influenced by societal pressures and an overwork culture. Japan has the highest proportion of elderly citizens globally. As of 2022, 29.1% of the population was aged 65 and older, a figure projected to rise to one-third by 2050. This demographic shift is primarily due to sub-replacement fertility rates and high life expectancy. The total fertility rate has remained below the replacement threshold of 2.1 since 1974, reaching a historic low of 1.26 in 2005. In 2016, it was 1.41 children per woman. Contributing factors include later and fewer marriages, economic challenges, urbanization, and a demanding work culture that discourages work-life balance. Consequently, Japan's population, which peaked at 128.1 million in 2008, is expected to shrink to 97 million by 2050 if current trends continue. Japan's intense work culture, characterized by long hours and high expectations, has led to significant mental health challenges. The term karoshi, meaning death by overwork, reflects the severity of this issue. In 2006, 10,894 individuals over the age of 60 committed suicide, with poor health and the stresses of caregiving being significant factors. The societal expectation to care for elderly family members often leads to isolation and depression among caregivers. Efforts to address these issues include introducing nursing services funded by levies on those over 40 and promoting support networks for caregivers. However, challenges persist, and experts emphasize the need for comprehensive strategies to alleviate societal pressures and improve mental health support. In summary, Japan's demographic challenges of an aging population and declining birth rate, combined with societal pressures leading to high suicide rates, present complex issues that require multifaceted solutions, including economic reforms, cultural shifts, and enhanced support systems. Luxembourg, often celebrated for its affluence and high standard of living, faces significant social challenges that contrast sharply with its prosperous image. Among the most pressing issues are the acute housing crisis, rising poverty levels, and the complexities of an aging population. The scarcity of affordable housing in Luxembourg has reached critical levels. A substantial gap exists between the demand for housing, estimated at 6,000 to 8,000 units per year, and the actual number of new constructions, which ranges between 2,500 and 4,000 annually. This shortfall has led to a significant increase in housing prices, with Eurostat reporting an 11.3% rise, placing Luxembourg among the top 3 countries in Europe for housing price inflation. Consequently, many residents are burdened with housing costs that consume a large portion of their income, exacerbating financial strain, especially among low-income households. Despite its wealth, Luxembourg has witnessed a concerning increase in poverty rates. Approximately 21.5% of the population is at risk of poverty or social exclusion, with children and single-parent families being particularly vulnerable. Notably, 18.7% of the working population is classified as working poor, one of the highest proportions in the European Union. This paradox of poverty amid prosperity highlights significant income inequality and underscores the need for comprehensive social policies to support the most vulnerable groups. Luxembourg is also grappling with the challenges of an aging population. Projections indicate that by 2060, individuals over 65 will constitute more than 26% of the total population. This demographic shift poses significant challenges for the country's social services and healthcare systems, necessitating strategic planning to ensure sustainable support for the elderly while maintaining economic stability. These intertwined issues present a sobering reality for Luxembourg, revealing the disparities and social challenges that persist beneath its affluent exterior. Addressing these problems requires comprehensive policy reforms, targeted social programs, and a commitment to fostering an inclusive society that supports all its members. Mexico faces significant challenges related to drug cartel violence and pervasive corruption within its political and law enforcement institutions. Drug cartel violence in Mexico has escalated dramatically over the past decades. In 2018, the country experienced a peak of 33,341 homicides, with the murder rate remaining high in subsequent years. This surge in violence is primarily attributed to conflicts between powerful cartels, such as the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel, as they vie for control over lucrative drug trafficking routes. In 2021 alone, clashes between these two cartels resulted in at least 4,890 deaths, accounting for 26% of all cartel-related fatalities that year. The violence has not only led to a staggering loss of life, but has also instilled fear among the populace, disrupted communities, and strained the country's resources. Efforts to combat these cartels have often led to further violence, as seen in incidents like the 2023 Sinaloa unrest, where the arrest of Ovidio Guzman Lopez, son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, sparked widespread violence resulting in multiple deaths. Corruption remains a pervasive issue in Mexico, deeply affecting its political and law enforcement institutions. Bribery and collusion with criminal organizations are widespread among police forces and public officials. A 2017 survey revealed that nearly 2/3 of Mexicans believed most or all police officers were corrupt. This corruption severely undermines public trust and hampers effective governance. High-profile cases, such as the arrest of Genaro Garcia Luna, Mexico's former security chief, who was sentenced to 38 years in U.S. prison for receiving bribes from the Sinaloa cartel, highlight the deep-rooted nature of the problem. Efforts to address corruption have been met with limited success. While there have been attempts to reform police forces and implement anti-corruption measures, these initiatives often face resistance and are hindered by the entrenched nature of corrupt practices. The lack of accountability and transparency within institutions further exacerbates the issue, making it a persistent challenge for Mexico's development and stability. In summary, Mexico's struggle with drug cartel violence and systemic corruption presents complex challenges that require comprehensive and sustained efforts to overcome. Russia faces significant challenges related to political repression and high rates of alcoholism, both of which have profound social and health implications. In recent years, the Russian government has intensified its crackdown on dissent, particularly following the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Legislation criminalizing the spread of false information about the military has been used to silence critics. Notable opposition figures such as Ilya Yashin and Vladimir Kara-Murza have received lengthy prison sentences for expressing anti-war sentiments. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, have documented severe restrictions on freedoms of expression, assembly, and association, with government critics facing arbitrary prosecution and lengthy prison terms. Alcoholism has long been a public health concern in Russia. Despite efforts to reduce consumption through measures like increased taxation and advertising bans, recent data indicates a resurgence in alcohol use. Between January and October 2024, alcohol sales reached a record 1.84 billion liters, the highest since 2017. This increase has been attributed to social and economic upheavals, including the stresses associated with ongoing geopolitical tensions and the war in Ukraine. The rise in consumption has led to the first increase in alcohol dependency rates in over a decade, with a notable uptick in first-time alcohol use disorder diagnoses. In summary, Russia's political climate is marked by stringent suppression of dissent, while societal challenges like alcoholism continue to pose significant public health issues. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, renowned for its rich history and economic strength, faces significant challenges that cast a shadow over its societal progress. Among the most pressing issues are rising poverty levels and a deepening mental health crisis, each contributing to a complex and distressing reality for many citizens. Recent reports indicate that more than 1 in 5 people in the UK, 22%, were living in poverty in 2021-22, totaling 14.4 million individuals. This includes 4.2 million children, highlighting the widespread nature of economic hardship. Notably, poverty rates have returned to around their pre-pandemic levels, as middle-income household incomes rose at the same time as a range of temporary coronavirus-related support was withdrawn. The overall level of poverty has barely moved since conservative-led governments took power in 2010. Poverty last fell consistently during the first half of the last Labor administration, between 1999-2000 and 2004-05, but then rose in the second half of their time in power. In part, this reflects the hits to living standards that have affected everyone, from the economic slowdown even before the global financial crisis to the current cost of living crisis. The UK is experiencing a significant mental health crisis, with mental health concerns now surpassing cancer and obesity as the nation's primary health worry. Factors such as the COVID-19 pandemic, economic uncertainties, and social isolation have contributed to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and other mental health disorders. A 2024 report highlighted that 26% of 15-year-olds in the UK reported low life satisfaction, compared to a European average of 17%. Indicating a concerning trend among the youth. Moreover, poverty and mental health are closely linked. Individuals living in the lowest 20% income bracket in Great Britain are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop mental health problems than those in the highest income bracket. These intertwined challenges highlight the urgent need for comprehensive policy interventions and societal efforts to foster a more equitable and mentally healthy environment in the United Kingdom. United States. The United States, often hailed as a land of opportunity and prosperity, grapples with profound challenges that cast a shadow over its national narrative. Among the most pressing issues are deepening economic inequality, escalating political polarization, and a pervasive mental health crisis, each contributing to a complex and distressing reality for many Americans. Despite being one of the world's wealthiest nations, the U.S. faces significant income and wealth disparities. The top 1% of earners hold a substantial portion of the nation's wealth, while many Americans struggle to meet basic needs. This disparity has far-reaching effects, including reduced social mobility and increased health disparities. A 2023 report highlighted that economic inequality remains a critical concern, affecting various aspects of American life. The U.S. is experiencing heightened political polarization, leading to legislative gridlock and social fragmentation. Divergent media narratives and the rise of echo chambers have deepened divisions, making consensus on critical issues increasingly elusive. This polarization undermines democratic processes and erodes public trust in institutions. The nation faces a significant mental health crisis, with rising rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide. Factors contributing to this include social isolation, economic stress, and the pervasive influence of social media. Conclusion. While these facts are saddening, they also serve as a reminder that global issues require collective awareness and action. Every country faces its own struggles, and while some issues may seem insurmountable, progress is always possible. By understanding the hardships of others, we can foster empathy, support global initiatives, and work towards a world with fewer tragedies and greater prosperity.